Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I am Muneeb Hamid with the news of this hour. Let's begin with the headlines first. Indian farmers are observing a day-long nationwide hunger strike against the farm laws. Police have stopped the protesters from going towards the capital after they blocked the Delhi-Jaipur highway. Farmers have been protesting for 19 days now, demanding the Indian government to repeal the 3 farm laws. Another unprovoked Indian ceasefire violation across the line of control has wounded a 45-year-old Pakistani civilian. Pakistan military's media wing says the Indian troops deliberately targeted civilians in the Chirikot sector with mortars. Hackers have broken into the networks of the U.S. Treasury and Commerce Departments. The FBI and the Department of Homeland Security's cybersecurity arm say they are investigating the breach. Officials say the hacking appears to be large-scale penetration of U.S. government agencies. The global coronavirus death tally has exceeded 1.6 million, while the infections from the virus has topped 72 million. The US's death tally is fast approaching 300,000, while its infections have surpassed the 16 million figure. Meanwhile, in India, the COVID-19 has taken over 143,000 lives and infected more than 9.8 million people. Pakistan has registered over 2,300 new infections and 36 deaths in the last 24 hours, pushing its toll to over 8,800. And in football, Barcelona have edged past Levante 1-0 to move to the 8th place in the La Liga standings. Lionel Messi was Barcelona's saviour yet again and scored the only goal of the game in the 76th minute. All these were the headlines. News in detail after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now let's have the news in detail. The protesting Indian farmers are observing a day-long nationwide hunger strike against the farm laws. Farmers have been demonstrating for 19 days now. The farmer unions are holding protest rallies, sit-ins and day-long hunger strike across the country. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal said he is also observing the strike and appealed to the central government to scrap the legislation. Police have stopped the protesters from going towards the capital after they blocked the Delhi-Jaipur highway. The protesters called for the complete repeal of anti-farmers law that ended government's procurement of their produce at fixed rates. They argue that the new laws by Prime Minister Modi's government has exposed them to corporate exploitation. Now, another unprovoked Indian ceasefire violation across the line of control has wounded a 45-year-old Pakistani civilian. Pakistan military's media wing says the Indian troops deliberately targeted civilians in the Chirikot sector with mortars. This year, India has killed 27 people in over 2,000 ceasefire violations. Pakistan has repeatedly summoned Indian diplomats to register its protest over such incidents of aggression. Islamabad maintains that India is resorting to such tactics to distract world attention away from its brutalities in occupied Kashmir. Also, Pakistan has told India to shun the use of terrorism as an instrument of state policy and give up its global smear campaign to ensure durable peace in the region. The Foreign Office was referring to the recent report by EU Disinfo Lab, which exposed a vicious Indian network of fake websites and think tanks working to malign Pakistan. In a statement, it said baseless Indian accusations cannot take the spotlight off its extremist agendas. Speaking on Kashmir, the Foreign Office said India cannot hide its grave human rights violations from the world. It added that the Indian government must let Kashmiris exercise their right to self-determination under UN resolutions. Now in Pakistan, 36 people have lost their lives to COVID-19 over the past 24 hours. This takes the country's death toll to over 8,832. Health officials reported 2,362 new infections overnight. Meanwhile, more than 47,000 active COVID-19 cases have been detected in the country. The Health Ministry says out of over 440,000 countrywide cases, more than 384,000 people have recovered. The ministry added over 195,000 cases have been detected in the Sindh province. Punjab province has reported nearly 127,000 cases. The world has recorded more than 1.6 million deaths from the coronavirus and 72 million infections so far. In the United States, the death toll is fast approaching 300,000 with more than 16 million cases. Meanwhile, India has recorded more than 27,000 new cases and 336 deaths overnight. More on coronavirus in this report.
The first COVID-19 vaccines have arrived in Canada, with some Canadians likely to get the jab over the next 24 hours. Hospitalizations in the U.S. hit another record, clocking above 100,000 for the 12th consecutive day. President-elect Joe Biden has outlined a strategy to vaccinate 100 million Americans from 50 states in the first 100 days of his administration.
The necessary funding from Congress, we can get most of our schools open in 100 days, but we need the help from the Congress and the funding. The first 100 days won't end the COVID-19, but meeting those goals can slow the spread, save lives, and get us back to our lives with the people we love the most.
Persistently high infection rates across Europe have prompted governments from London to Athens to strengthen or maintain curbs on movement. Italy has overtaken the UK to become the nation with the highest death toll in Europe, with more than 64,000 deaths. Meanwhile, things seem to be improving in Oceania. New Zealand has agreed to form a quarantine-free travel bubble with Australia in the first quarter of 2021.
Cabinet has agreed in principle to establish a travel bubble with Australia, we anticipate in the first quarter of 2021. Pending confirmation from the Australian Cabinet and no significant change in the circumstances of either country. Officials have been working on a range of matters and good progress has been made.
South Korea reported 780 new coronavirus cases, a drop from the record daily increase of the day earlier. And Eswatini Prime Minister Ambrose Dlamini, who tested positive for COVID-19 4 weeks ago, has died at age 52.
Well, now moving on, Iran has summoned the German and French envoys over the European Union's condemnation of the hanging of a journalist. Ruhollah Azam was accused of provoking unrest and inspiring nationwide economic protest. State media said Iran told Ambassador Hans-Udo Musel any interference in its domestic affairs was unacceptable. In a statement after the announcement of execution, the EU said it condemned the capital punishment in strongest terms. France also called the hanging a grave blow to freedom of speech in Iran. Zam's website and channel provided information on the timing of nationwide anti-government protest in 2017. Meanwhile, the UN Security Council has voiced concerns over military escalation and food insecurity in Yemen. In a statement, the members of the Council condemned the last month's Houthi attack on oil facilities in Saudi Arabia. The statement said Council reiterated its commitment to an inclusive Yemeni-led and Yemeni-owned political process. It said the Council also reaffirms international community's commitment to uphold Yemen's sovereignty, unity and territorial integrity. The Security Council expressed alarm at reports showing 13.5 million Yemenis being at risk of acute starvation. The Council also emphasized the importance of facilitating humanitarian assistance to prevent the enormous loss of life. Now, Iraq's oil ministry has managed to put out fire at one of the 2 oil wells in the northern Karbaz oil field. In a statement, the oil ministry said efforts are underway to contain the fire at the second well. It said production from the roughly 25,000 barrel per day field has not been affected. The well were set ablaze on December 9th by explosive devices in an attack by ISIS. Now, Azerbaijan's defense ministry says 4 of its soldiers were killed in an attack launched by Armenian forces. The attack violates the 10th of November ceasefire deal brokered by Russia, which ended 6 weeks of fighting. The defense ministry said a group of Armenian fighters remained in the mountainous province. Azerbaijan said it has been forced to respond to recent fatal attacks on the servicemen by conducting anti-terror operations. Russian peacekeepers deployed in the conflict area reported no major clashes, but said there had been a ceasefire violation over the weekend. Now, Boko Haram militants have killed 27 people in an overnight attack in southeast Niger. Local officials said several people were wounded and many more missing. They said the assault was conducted in the village of Tumor in Difa region. Last month, Boko Haram terrorists beheaded 30 men in the Zambarmari village. The violence has cost the lives of 30,000 people and displaced millions in Cameroon, Niger and Chad. Now, more than 300 students are still missing in a mass kidnapping incident in Nigeria's Katsina state. Katsina's Governor Aminu Masari said the authorities are yet to account for almost 333 students. However, Masari said efforts are being made to ascertain the actual number of children that have been kidnapped. He said students who managed to escape the attackers have been coming out of hiding in the forest. A student who managed to flee spoke about his ordeal.
When I decided to run, they brought a knife to slaughter me, but I ran away quickly. I ran into the crowd. They couldn't get me. Then I put my clothes upside down so that they could not see me. From there, they said they would kill whoever is trying to escape. Then I began to run, climbing one rock to another through a forest.
Well, Nigeria's defense ministry said the military will pursue the attackers and rescue the students without any collateral damage. Now, moving on, Sudan's Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok briefly visited Ethiopia to discuss security matters with Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. The Ethiopian Prime Minister said on Twitter they reached an understanding on various issues that will bolster bilateral cooperation. Hamdok returned within hours from that what Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed had earlier described as a 2-day trip. Last month, the Ethiopian government launched a military offensive against a rebellious regional government in Tigray. The conflict has killed hundreds, and almost 50,000 Ethiopians have crossed the country's northwestern border into Sudan. Although Sudan agreed to open its doors to the Ethiopian refugees, it was not prepared for the huge influx. 14 migrants from Venezuela have been found dead in waters near the coast of Trinidad and Tobago. In a statement, Caracas said the ship carrying migrants from the coastal town of Guiria was wrecked en route. The Trinidadian Coast Guard said Venezuelan authorities informed them of the incident. Preliminary information suggested that the boat left on December 6th with more than 20 people on board. Venezuelan officials said the boat was allegedly detained in Trinidad and returned to Venezuela. They said they have not ruled out the possible involvement of criminal groups. The Trinidadian Coast Guard, however, said that it had not intercepted any boats from Guiria. Now, hackers have broken into the networks of the United States Treasury and Commerce Departments. The FBI and the Department of Homeland Security cyber security arm say they are investigating the breach. Officials say the hacking appears to be a large-scale penetration of U.S. government agencies. The hacks come less than a week after foreign hackers broke into FireEye's network, stealing the company's hacking tools. The company's customers included federal, state and local governments and top global corporations. In a statement, a National Security Council spokesperson said the government is taking all necessary steps to identify and remedy any possible issues related to this issue. More news coming up in this bulletin after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, moving on with the news stories, Belarusian police have arrested 135 anti-government demonstrators at a rally in the capital, Minsk. A rights group said more than 120 rallies were taken out in Minsk and other cities. Weekly protests with a demand for the resignation of veteran President Alexander Lukashenko continue in Belarus. Some protesters waved white flags with a red stripe in the middle, a symbol of the opposition. Opposition leaders say over 30,000 people have been detained in Belarus since the start of the protests in August. The European Union has imposed travel bans and frozen assets of almost 50 Belarusian officials over election rigging allegations. Meanwhile, John Le Carré, who forged thriller from equal parts of adventure, moral courage and literary flair, has died aged 89. The spy who came in from the cold and Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy author died from pneumonia. Born as David Cornwell in 1931, Le Carré wrote under a pseudonym. His longtime agent Johnny Geller described him as an undisputed giant of English literature. He challenged Western assumptions by defining for millions the moral ambiguities of the battle between the Soviet Union and the West. Paying tribute, Stephen King said this terrible year has claimed a literary giant and a humanitarian spirit. The much-loved British Christmas tradition of pantomime has been saved thanks to production staged in car parks. Throughout the festive season, the Birmingham Stage Company will perform Horrible Christmas across the UK. Detailed in this report.
A drive-in performance of a Christmas pantomime is touring outdoor venues across the UK. The car park Panto tells the story of a young boy trying to save Christmas. Audience participation is limited to honking horns and flashing headlamps. Actor and company manager Neil Foster described it as a totally unique way of doing theatre.
I like to make kids cry.
It's very peculiar. You're dependent much more on your fellow actors in a way, because you can't connect so much with the audience as you normally would in a theatre. You can't feel the atmosphere in the same way. You play off each other, but you know that everyone's sitting there, and you can see the front row. You can see few people through the windshield. So when we do the audience interaction, you can see it happening.
For audience members in Chelmsford in eastern England, the production was different to the usual pantomime, but a triumph nonetheless. In line with coronavirus safe guidelines, the cast and crew have been in bubbles since rehearsals began and will spend Christmas together as performances run until January 3rd. Foster said the production was a saving grace for the actors, many of whom have not had an acting job since March. Audience appreciated the effort of the company, saying it's a relief amid COVID restrictions.
It's really nice because there's hardly anything on, especially for the kids. They're missing out so many things they would normally do this time of year. So it's really nice that there's something they can come along to.
Meanwhile, houses festooned with Christmas lights are some of the only festive attractions which remain possible in Germany and Austria this year. In Austria, the Goldnuber family has bedecked their house and garden with some 600,000 LEDs over 5,000 square meters. Meanwhile, in Germany, pensioner Bernhard Dobitz spent around 7 weeks installing his Christmas light installation. A former electrician, he has been decorating his house for 40 years.
Now, a Chinese space capsule bringing back the first moon rocks in more than 4 decades has begun its return trip to Earth. It spent about 6 days in lunar orbit. The China National Space Administration said the Chang'e 5 lunar probe left the orbit by activating 4 engines for about 22 minutes. The mission landed on the moon earlier this month and collected about 2 kilograms of samples. The return capsule is expected to land in northern China in the Inner Mongolia region in mid-December. The samples would be the first brought back since the Soviet Union's Luna 24 probe in 1976. In China, a dazzling Geminid meteor shower has been captured in the Jade Dragon Snow Mountain. The Geminid meteor shower reached its peak on the wee hours in the Lijiang city of Yunnan province.
The Geminids appear to emerge from the Gemini constellation are pieces of an asteroid known as 3200 Phaethon. Every year in mid-December, the Earth passes through the debris, ice and rock from the asteroid, which upon contacting the Earth's atmosphere burn up and leave a streak across the sky. With a high altitude, Lijiang has favorable astronomical resources. The Jade Dragon Mountain is located at 27.5 degrees north latitude, which serves as an excellent observation point. Jade Dragon Snow Mountain is one of the few observation sites that are internationally recognized.
Now, tourists are flocking to southern Chile to experience the total solar eclipse that will darken the skies today. It will also be visible in Argentina. Details in this report.
It would only seem appropriate that the final eclipse in this eccentric year of 2020 will be visible only from Patagonia, nicknamed the end of the world, because it reaches the bottom of South American continent. Residents and tourists in Chile are buying special eyewear to safely view the total solar eclipse in the town of Villarrica. It will turn daytime into twilight for up to 2 minutes and 10 seconds as the moon passes in front of the sun.
We have been planning this trip since the last eclipse in Vicuña on July 2nd, 2019. More or less 45 friends came by bus using all the health measures that I know, and we're hoping to see the event tomorrow from our cabin.
Parts of Chile are some of the best locations in the world to watch the astronomical events due to their clear skies. The eclipse will then cross the imposing Andes mountain range to be visible only in Argentina. A partial eclipse will be visible throughout the American continent as well as parts of southwestern Africa.
Now, stocks in Asia Pacific are trading mixed as investors in the region react to the approval of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine. Mainland Chinese shares have added close to 0.5%, with both Shanghai Composite and the Shenzhen component edging up marginally. In Japan, the Nikkei 225 and the Topix index have also risen slightly. Shares in Australia too are in the positive territory, with the ASX 200 rising fractionally. But Seoul's Kospi has shed marginally, while Hong Kong's Hang Seng has also slipped over 0.5%. Now in football, Barcelona have edged past Levante 1-0 to move to the 8th place in the La Liga standings. Lionel Messi was Barcelona's saviour yet again and scored the only goal of the game in the 76th minute. Levante's goalkeeper Aitor Fernandez was in inspired form, blocking attacks from Barcelona strikers. But Messi left Fernandez clueless with a strike from an angle after Frenkie de Jong's assist. The 5th league win moves Barcelona to 2 places up the La Liga table. Barca are set to face leaders Real Sociedad in their next encounter on Wednesday. And in English Premier League, Liverpool have drawn the fixture 1-1 against Fulham at Craven Cottage. Mohamed Salah earned Liverpool their point, firing a low penalty, beating goalkeeper Alphonse Areola. Bobby de Cordova raid gave Fulham the leading during the first half. Fans were allowed into Craven Cottage for the first time this season. Fulham are 4th from bottom with 8 points, while Liverpool are inching close to the victory podium. And now let's have a look at the weather updates across the globe. And that is all for now. For the latest update, you can follow us on social media as Indus.News. Take care.